Hey, what's going on, guys? Sorry about the channel name change. It's still me. It's still a channel, still going to focus on music and vinyl, but I wanted to update the name, keep it fresh, keep things moving forward. So this video is going to be a spotlight on Megadeth, so I'll throw it in as part of the Mosh Pit series. How do I tackle a band like Megadeth that has so many fans in the world and so many fans in the vinyl community? So what I did was I pulled together 12-inch LPs, 7-inch 45s, also some cassettes and some CDs, also some spin-off and Megadeth related projects, and kind of threw it all together into the crate. I'm just going to kind of flip through, make a couple comments, talk about who's in the band, who's out of the band, and some of my impressions as I was listening to these releases. So been focused on this for a while, so it does look like it's going to be a little lengthy, so thank you in advance for hanging in there. And please leave a comment below on some of your favorite Megadeth albums or your favorite lineups, and we're just going to get right into it. So in 1985, Megadeth's debut album comes out, infamously known for blowing a lot of their budget on drugs instead of production, but take all the guitars, drums, bass, and Dave's snarling voice and put it all together in a blender, and you get Killing Is My Business. The band lineup, basically the nexus of Megadeth is Dave Mustaine and David Ellefson, and then for the first two albums you have Gar Samuelson on drums and Chris Pullen on guitar, and some people prefer that as their best lineup. Killer album. I get when you stack it up against Metallica, it's a little hard to do because they've already released Kill 'Em All and they've already released Ride the Lightning. So this is Megadeth getting a rough start as far as being compared to that, but I always thought it sounded punkier, grittier, a little more underground, and I always enjoyed it. Font's a little funky there. This is an original on Combat. This is the green camouflage label. It also came with other pressings were gray and white camouflage or the solid green. I happen to have the one with the Combat written in the large font, Megadeth in large font. So this is a 2018 reissue of the same album. Love the artwork. So they ended up taking Dave's original concept that he wanted for this, because as the story goes, Dave was really upset when they saw the cover of this. Dave and David were both upset because they took some liberties with the art on that. So this is a little bit more like Dave's original drawing. Really awesome gatefold, 2 LPs. The second LP is kind of unnecessary just because of the quality of the recordings. A really nice, kind of surprised as I was reading through it. You read Dave's commentary on the liner notes, but there's a really nice write-up from Vinnie Paul in there I thought was really cool. This is an original pressing on Rainbow Capital. Wake Up Dead is one of my favorite tracks on here. Not so much the cover song choice, didn't really care too much for that. Again, this is Dave Mustaine, David Ellefson, Chris Pullen, and Gar Samuelson. This will be Gar's last album with Megadeth as he passes away, but he passes away later on in 1999. But they kind of go separate ways at that point. Soundtrack to Dude. So this is a really nice glimpse. I think this is 1987. This is a really nice glimpse into the hard rock and metal scene at that time. You see we have Megadeth on here, Jane's Addiction, Steve Vai, and then Megadeth does These Boots cover. Yeah, so after hearing Master of Puppets, I just wanted to get my hands on any cassettes that I could that was speed metal or thrash. And when I heard So Far So Good So What, I mean, that really satisfied my need to hear more. Megadeth was a little punkier, grittier, a little nastier, a little more underground sounding than Metallica, and that appealed to me. And so that just kind of led the way to Anthrax and a lot of the other bands. So Far So Good So What, produced, still rough production, but it's definitely produced better than the previous two. You got Gar's gone, Chris Pullen's gone, but you end up having Baylor in here, and then Jeff Young kind of does a one-off here. Jeff Young tries to remain active as far as podcasts and things like that, but I don't think he does a whole lot. Killer album. I mean, I don't know if instrumentals were like a rite of passage for metal bands or if it was just showing off, but a lot of bands, especially local metal bands, were all doing the intros and the instrumentals. And this one is just brutal, but I love 502, In My Darkest Hour, and then also the cover Anarchy in the UK. So I know it doesn't, looking back all these years later, the Anarchy in the UK is, maybe a little bit off or not as appreciated, or it's a little funky. But man, this is almost my introduction to the band. Into the Lungs of Hell, when I first heard that tape, I instantly was attracted to the Megadeth sound, needing to take a break from listening to my steady diet of Metallica. And I loved Anarchy in the UK. I didn't know who the Sex Pistols were. So, I mean, I try to always keep an open mind when it comes to cover songs, because that was my introduction into Megadeth, and then also the Sex Pistols. So, whether or not he screwed up the lyrics or not. But yeah, Liars on the B-side, which is an album track. This is really cool. This is the 12-inch I've seen from time to time with the hologram or the reflective Megadeth logo on that side, and then on this side is the album cover. If you hold the light up to it just right, it comes out really nice. So, 1988, you have The Decline of Western Civilization, Part 2, following up from the punk years, and the impact of punk music and the people there behind it, into hard rock and the recognizing that this overbloated too much sleaze metal and this whole thing was just expanding, and then diving down into the lifestyles and the lifestyles of excess, and kind of putting it in a dark light, really. Megadeth does In My Darkest Hour on this, Queen's Right, The Prophecy, which is pretty good. Not my favorite. I don't know if I would have picked that song for this, but I had this tape, and this tape stayed in the tape deck a lot back then. Pretty good documentary. I don't think I saw it until it came out on VHS. But what I like about this, check out the letterhead from Capitol Records. Really neat letterhead there, with a little bit of a breakdown of the bands that were on the album. I feel like I'm going a little bit too fast, but we'll see. No More Mr. Nice Guy. So Alice Cooper cover, ended up doing this for the movie Shocker.
Plug him in. Contact. Turn him on.
I don't think he's dead.
And get ready for the shock of your life. Get him out of here! From Wes Craven, director of the original Nightmare on Elm Street, comes Shocker.
No more Mr. Nice Guy.
From Universal, rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent. Starts Friday, October 27th at a theater near you.
On the B side is Different Breed. I'm sorry, I'm totally out of frame there. Is Different Breed by a band called Dead On. So check out this band, Dead On. Really good heavy metal. That song is a little bit of a thrasher. This is a radio station copy. Someone wrote KSPC on here, and that didn't deter me from buying it. But a good little band, Dead On. I think they had a couple albums out. But Mike Raptis did die a few years ago, who did the lead vocals on that. But going back to No More Mr. Nice Guy, this came out in '89. So what you're looking at here is kind of a glimpse into the future before Rust in Peace comes out. So they're recording the album and starting to nail down the artwork with this whole nuclear kind of theme going on. So I think that's a pretty cool 7. This is the one you were waiting for, or you might have even fast forwarded the video to this point. Iconic cover, classic lineup, right? Dave Mustaine, David Ellefson, Nick Menza steps in for killer drums, and then, of course, Marty Friedman, probably from one of the best heavy metal albums of all time. That lineup right there. This one is an original on Capitol with the purple labels, and I really prefer the sound of this. Collecting these or trying to hunt down Megadeth records over the last 7 years, I was able to land a couple originals like this. Man, I remember couldn't wait for this CD to come in on BMG. This is one of those little promo cards that looks like the album. It's just a, crap, I forget what they're called. A little promo there. Greeno gave this to me. And then this happens to be the 2008 reissue, Capitol reissue. It actually sounds really good. The original does edge it out because it's quiet, so you have to turn the volume up a little bit on this, which reveals a lot of the surface noise or any imperfections. But this is pretty close to the original, so if you can't afford or hunt down an original, the 2008 reissue is probably the way to go. So, Symphony of Destruction, we couldn't wait for the release of this song to come out, and this is kind of the perfect remedy for a crunch-hungry teenager, and it just had one of the baddest, simplest riffs ever. On the B-side here is what Breakpoint. So, couldn't wait for this album to come out. This album, I took a family trip with my mom and dad and 2 sisters out west, and I tell you what, this CD was in the CD player the whole time, just keeping my ears warm. This is actually an original pressing, pressed in Brazil. I don't think this has been reissued as of yet, except for the picture disc. So really awesome addition to the collection, and one that was really important for me to add. But yeah, love Countdown. Might have to take some of this stuff out. I don't want that one to get messed up. Put that to the side. I do have the original master recording. This one doesn't sound that great. It's really good quality. It's clean. Just something's not right about it, and I think that's why you continue to see this for $20. Pick it up if you get a chance. Approved for, I would say, Bill and Ted's. I was going to say Beavis and Butthead, but Beavis and Butthead approved. Megadeth, Go to Hell. Wrote a track for this song, which is a really good Megadeth track. Good movie. Another good hard rock track like Dudes and The Decline of Western Civilization Part 2. Pretty cool album there. In between Rust and Euthanasia, you've got Chris Poland takes off and does Damn the Machine. So it's kind of a side project about the same time, around this time. He grabs his brother Mark Poland, and it's a pretty good album. Their biggest mistake, like I read Chris talking about in his book, was that really they should have taken advantage of what was available in the studio at the time instead of they were talking to just doing live recording instead of doing like a lot of overdubs and things like that. All right, Train of Consequences. This is pretty close to Holland EP. This has Crown of Worms on it, which I love that track. Really nice little CD EP there. And then we're going into the Euthanasia territory. So let me think about Euthanasia. It's an excellent album. Felt like a bit of rinse and repeat, as some of us say, more of Countdown Part 2. But Train of Consequences is really good. I Thought I Knew It All is a great track. This is a picture disc reissue. It'll kind of have to hold me over until I land an original copy. But it's still pretty cool. So this is an unofficial recording. They just took a live radio show, recorded some of it, and slapped it on a vinyl record. Took the artwork from Rust in Peace, slapped it on the front. I don't recommend this unless you're a completist. The recording quality is really bad, as well as it just cuts in and cuts out of the song, so it's pretty rough. So Cryptic Writings, stuff is going to start to go forward here. So Cryptic Writings, it's a little tougher than I thought with all these albums. We have Trust, and this is on the B-side is The Secret Place. I have a nice 7-inch here since there's, I don't have the vinyl for this, regrettably, still kind of on the hunt for this. Cryptic Writings, of course Trust was all over the radio. FFF, so this ends up being the last song that Nick Menza records with Megadeth, and he passed away just a couple years ago playing live on stage with his band. But Cryptic Writings, probably an underrated Megadeth album, wouldn't you say? And then somewhere in here, Dave did MB45, which I don't have any copies of. So now we're heading into the Risk territory, probably the least ranked album, highest ranked album as far as Megadeth goes by the fans. This has Crush 'Em on one side, and then on the other side is Breadline, which is actually a really good song. So I don't have Risk on vinyl. This is the closest I can get to it. So already after a devastating loss with Nick Menza leaving the band, we've got Friedman exiting the band, and kind of like wondering what the future is going to be like for Megadeth. And this is the CD with the edited version with the bandage over the stomach there. If you've been holding out for a reissue of this, you're in luck. So reissues of World Needs a Hero and System That Failed are available right now on Megadeth's website and on Amazon. Popoff explains this pretty well, where he says it feels like it's 1 foot on the brake, 1 on the gas. I just got done playing this before starting this video. I have to say the remaster on it is excellent. Done by Ted Jensen, who's done a ton of stuff. Also did the new Life of Agony album, the new Machine Head album, Appetite for Destruction reissue. He also did Killing Is My Business. He works at Sterling Sound. So remastered by one of the best. The quality of this is much better than, say, Supercollider, which I had some quality issues with. But the quality pressing and the pressing of the quality of the package is killer. Really awesome to have World Needs a Hero on full 12-inch vinyl, and then also the artwork is really nice. It's not blown up and doesn't look fuzzy around the edges, so they did a really nice job with the cover. All right, so now we're going into 2004 with Megadeth. It's kind of some weird times. We've got an unknown bass guitarist in here, and I'm not sure who's on the drums. Chris Poland comes back out of nowhere, but they put together this incredibly heavy album. I think this is definitely one to try and pick up, whether you get the music on vinyl, and I am interested to hear the 2019 remix. Die Dead Enough, Kick the Chair, a couple highlights. Dave's son Justice actually has an appearance on this album. Great solos on this. All right, I wouldn't say Dominations, but the United Abominations. This one's pretty cool. This is a CD that's only issued to people that review the albums, and this one was going to this guy here at Rolling Stone magazine, which is pretty cool. It has a special protection on it, so it only plays in basic CD players where you can't take a rip of it. This one is, I think this is an original pressing, but Drover Brothers come in, Lomenzo comes back. Lomenzo did White Line's Main Attraction album, if he sounds familiar to you. There's a lot of difference with the elements of the drum and the bass and the guitar working together. It's interesting, pretty cool album. Some of the tension and urgency comes back into the band that I felt was missing from 2 albums ago. All right, so 2009, we've got Endgame. I love this album. Love the album cover artwork with the flies along the edges and the imprisoned masses, probably Vic Rattleheads, all being, being led somewhere unknown in this future dystopian world. Maybe a little hint of what's coming up with dystopia. But I love 44 Minutes. It's a killer track around the Hollywood bank robbery that happened back in the 90s. Head Crusher's pretty good. Right to Go Insane. Just a solid album, really breathing new life into the Megadeth legacy. Chris Broderick comes in, and Lomenzo stays on, as well as Sean Drover, I believe. So after the album Endgame came out, and I was kind of revitalized being a Megadeth fan, it was really good news to hear that David Ellefson would be back. And not only that, they're going to be touring with the American Carnage Tour, promoting or doing Rust in Peace from beginning to end. And so I had my tickets and was definitely going to go. I found 2 friends that were also metalheads back in the 80s who went with me, and we just loved it. Slayer was phenomenal, Anthrax was phenomenal, and then just to see Megadeth perform Rust in Peace live, and this is the first time I'd ever even seen the band. It was just incredible, and it's a night that I'll never forget. And then right after that, they released this, or the year after that, they released this in 2011. I think it takes a step back for progress as far as how good I thought Endgame was, but really a step forward with Dave back in the band. So what was this lineup? Was Mustaine, Ellefson, Broderick, and Drover. I never really thought Broderick and Mustaine were a perfect complement for each other, but at this time I thought it was the best. I thought that was the best, and we better take it. Getting here towards the end, just a couple more albums to show, but we want to definitely take another step back with Supercollider. So between this and Risk, probably the least favorites of the Megadeth albums. This Supercollider is a pretty decent album. I don't visit it too often. and mainly, especially on vinyl, because of the quality issues. This had some poor quality issues being pressed. One of those universal pressings where it had some divots in it and some quality issues right out of the bag. So after that, see, Chris Broderick and Sean Drover take off, and they go start Active Defiance, which is a killer band to begin with. Really good band. So they go off in a completely new direction, and then Megadeth starts to upload some things on YouTube, and there starts to be some rumors going around about the new album. And then this came out. This is the white vinyl 12-inch for The Threat Is Real, and the other album track on here, Foreign Policy. And this is a way to hear Megadeth, the new Megadeth album, a little bit sooner. And then this drop, Dystopia, probably one of the most exciting, heaviest releases of Megadeth in the last, since Rust in Peace. So this was just blowing everything out of the water. Everybody on board with Megadeth again. Probably the top album pick of heavy metal album pick for 2016 for a lot of people. Love the album artwork, the riffs, the songs, front to back. Just an outstanding Megadeth album that will probably be in people's top five lists. So love this album. Threat Is Real to Dystopia. I mean, just the whole thing is killer, and has a great thematic theme to it, as well as awesome riffing and guitar playing from, you got Kirk on guitars, not Kirk, I'm sorry, Kiko on guitars coming in. I mean, he has outstanding musicianship. He just rips on the guitar. On drums for the studio is Chris Adler. He's not touring with the band. He stepped in to do this. Chris Adler from Lamb of God and Testament and Wrathchild America. But yeah, just a really killer album. I think we knew that Chris Adler wasn't going to stay. This is pretty cool. This is a CD that came with, also you can put together a virtual reality headset. And so I did that. I opened this, put it all together. I shot a video on the vinyl community for it. It was really pretty cool. But yeah, they did a virtual reality video for that, and then that is in this CD package. So I've got this Soilwork album here because, what's the future of Megadeth? So enter Dirk Verburen from Soilwork. I do like Soilwork. I like Swedish death metal. I like their album, their real early album, Steel Bath Suicide, and I also like Stabbing the Drama, and Dirk is on both of those albums. What I'm a little nervous about is the blast beats. I don't know how the blast beats or Swedish death metal drumming, how it's going to play in together and shape the new Megadeth sound. But I think it's okay to keep this guitar player Kiko. I think he's outstanding. I think they'll continue to make great albums together. I hope he stays on, and I hope the sound doesn't stray too far away from the Megadeth formula. So it seems to me that fans fall into a couple different groups. One was the group where they were there for the first two albums. Those guys are usually a little bit older than me, and they kind of trail off after So Good, So What. Or they're just diehard like Gar and Poland, and that was it. You have fans that are a little bit more like me in the beginning, where I discovered them with So Far, So Good, So What, went back, Rust in Peace blew me away, and then kind of trailed off after Countdown and Euthanasia. Kind of trailed off after that and lost track of the band. Maybe picked up a CD here and there, but kind of lost interest. And then Endgame came out and just plugged me right back in. And then since joining the vinyl community and wanting to put together the whole discography of Megadeth on vinyl, just had me going back through and revisiting each album. And now I have them all on vinyl except for Cryptic Writings, and then of course Risk, which was never released on vinyl. And going back and listening to each of those albums, I realized there's some good Megadeth albums and some great Megadeth albums, but there are no bad ones. I'm sure you can shuffle around the ranking, but now I'm just in the group of fans that thinks that the band can do no wrong. So it's got some changes coming up in this year. What's in the future for Megadeth? So you got the cruise going on, you got the new album being recorded, you do have Dirk Verburen in the band, so that might introduce blast beats. Not sure how that's going to feel and make the shape of the band, the culture of the band, what's that going to be like. I did like Soilwork, as I mentioned earlier, but Kiko's a fantastic guitar player. He just shreds. So I think that combination is going to keep the energy going. Dystopia, I mean, the energy's back in the band, the urgency is there, the great songwriting is there, and I feel like the fans are plugged in like they haven't been in a very long time. So definitely looking forward to keeping an eye on the tour. If the tour comes close to my home, I do want to see them again. Definitely excited for the new album release. The reissues are out there. World Needs a Hero has been reissued, so his System Has Failed, so you can pick those up, you know, for under $30 on Amazon or at the Megadeth website. You also have the Warheads on Foreheads coming out in March. So this is a compilation album. I really love the artwork. I'm going to be picking that up mainly for probably going to have some songs on there from Cryptic Writers or Risk that were previously unavailable on vinyl. So check those out. Megadeth fans, thank you for watching and hanging in there. I do want to thank Nate Savage for providing these great guitar riffs so I can avoid the copyright issues here. And thanks to the Creative Commons for providing the pictures, some of the pictures that I use in the video. Thanks, Vinyl Community, for watching. I know this was a long one. Guys out there, stay heavy. You guys like the jacket? So the jacket I grabbed off of eBay, it's like a couple years ago. It's a vintage 90s jean jacket, but then I bought the patches at different times and buttons at different times. Left the sleeves on. It gets a little cold in the Midwest, so it doesn't have that authentic ripped off sleeve look that you might see in Southern California. And like I said, it's not really thrash oriented, but it's my history of what I listened to through the years, kind of my hard rock, heavy metal history, and I hope to keep on adding to it. But pretty cool jacket. My wife sewed the patches on there, and keep looking to add to it.